eco-friendly tourist spots. Let's get moving.
#proud moment.
Ganda nun.
Always rise up, and for sure, you will always get there.
What we put in our bodies is actually what keeps us going.
I am doing this because this is my passion.
President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
I, Maria Leonor Geronimo, having been appointed to the position of chair.
Until the last drug lord is killed, this campaign will continue to the very last day of my term.
This is the time for us to unite. This is the time for us to all work together. Kami nga, yung opisina namin, kahit napakaliit, we have been doing our part.
Wala po akong magic potion, wala akong anting-anting.
We have never changed our position on the arbitral ruling.
Should those naval exercises spill over, they must expect the worst.
Right now, I have no political plans.
China cannot just seize the exclusive economic zones of other coastal states.
We are all equals in Congress. I would want a leadership that would be shared by all.
Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb.
We're back.
Hell yeah!
I take it very, very seriously.
This week on Hollywood Express. F9 is already a record breaker.
It's very humbling to watch them and be able to take advice from them.
A magical reunion is in the works.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Mai Rodriguez, sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, some areas roll out booster shots for adults vaccinated for at least 6 months as the government scales up its COVID-19 vaccination drive. Senator Richard Gordon leads another round of investigation into alleged anomalies involving a government supplier, Pharmaly, but not without criticizing and calling President Duterte a liar. And after a successful return to the concert stage in the U.S., Korean pop group BTS says it's ready to perform live back home. Adults fully vaccinated at least 6 months ago got their COVID-19 booster shots on the last day of a ramped-up vaccination drive across the country. The national government released the guidelines on the booster vaccination for the general population Thursday night. But as Tristan Nodalo reports, some local governments have yet to begin the rollout.
As early as 6 in the morning, eligible residents in Valenzuela City lined up to get their COVID-19 booster shots. While most who came for the inoculation were senior citizens and people with underlying health conditions, some essential workers also grabbed the opportunity.
Para mas maging protektado kami. Ngayon in the past, di ba, naranasan natin first and second dose. Ngayon, kailangan na natin magpa-booster lalo na ngayon may mga bagong strain ng virus.
Kung at risk ka sa COVID, kagaya nga sa panahon ngayon, di ba? Bakit hindi mo i-take yung opportunity na magpabakuna para at least safe ka, di ba? I mean, walang mawawala sa'yo kung magpapabakuna ka.
The 77-year-old mother of Emil Mamiit was among the first to receive the booster shot.
Talaga importante po meron pong booster shot para po masigurado po yung ligtas po siya sa anuman pong darating na mga possibility. At saka po parami po yung variant. So mas importante po na may booster na po si nanay para ligtas na.
This is one of the 3 vaccination sites in Valenzuela City that roll out the expanded booster shots for fully vaccinated adults. Inoculation is on a first-come, first-served basis, but only those who are fully vaccinated between March to May will be prioritized for the additional doses. People can choose their vaccine brand, but subject to availability. The local government unit aims to provide booster shots to some 800 individuals on a daily basis. They are also expecting to add more sites to accommodate the possible influx of vaccinees.
Yes po, magkakaroon po kami ng additional for booster doses po natin. By Monday po, we'll be starting po another 2 sites.
Apart from Valenzuela, Taguig City is also administering booster shots for the general public. Quezon City and San Juan City eye to give booster doses to essential workers and indigent population on Saturday. Marikina City has no schedule yet, while Navota City is still waiting for additional vaccine supplies. Manila and Mandaluyong are so far prioritizing health workers, the elderly, and people with underlying health conditions. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
More than 8 million doses were administered during the first 3 days of the COVID-19 vaccination drive, falling short of the government's initial target of 9 million. The vaccination drive was extended until today because of what vaccine czar Carlito Galvez claims is the clamor of many local governments. No word yet on the total vaccines administered for the past 5 days. But overall, Galvez says at least 55.4 million people have received at least 1 dose as of December 1st. This translates to 71.84% of the country's target population. Of the 55 million, almost 37 million have been fully vaccinated. Malacanang is urging the public to get vaccinated.
Tandaan natin na importanteng magpabakuna sa gitna ng banta ng Omicron variant. Sa milyon-milyong nabakunahan na mga Pilipino, 99% plus ay walang naramdaman na adverse reaction o kung meron man, mild lamang po ito. Wala pong namatay na direktang may kaugnay sa COVID-19 vaccine jab. This Christmas, let us give our family and loved ones the gift of good health. Let us vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate.
The government is hoping for a bigger turnout in the second leg of the national vaccination days on December 15 to 17. The health department is appealing to local officials to accept vaccine doses that are nearing expiration, as these are still effective. The department issued the reminder after over 14,000 AstraZeneca shots provided to Negros Occidental expired after some cities and municipalities refused to accept them. These areas apparently didn't want vaccines that were expiring soon, while some preferred other brands.
Gusto lang ho namin magpaalala, gusto lang ho namin makiusap sa ating mga local governments. Let us try to consider that these vaccines are very valuable. These are critical commodities at this time of the pandemic. Pag binigyan po namin kayo, hindi ho kami magbibigay sa inyo ng bakunang expired na. Ang binigay sa inyo, near expiring, which still can be used.
The DOH says the vaccines are now back in storage as it awaits advice from the manufacturer if the shelf life can be extended. The agency is further investigating the incident to see how these procedures can be improved. The government is tracing and monitoring over 250 travelers from South Africa amid the threat of the new COVID-19 variant of concern, Omicron. 249 Filipinos and 4 foreigners arrived from November 15 to 29, while the ban on South Africa and 6 other nations took effect on the 26th. The Bureau of Quarantine and Regional Surveillance Units have contacted 71 passengers so far.
No positive case was reported on retest, while the 3 foreign nationals from Region 6 tested negative on RT-PCR retest last December 1. The BOQ and the RESU has verified 71 cases, of which 68 are returning overseas Filipinos and 3 are foreign nationals from Region 6. 70 are all in facility quarantine, including the 3 verified foreign nationals. 1 returning overseas Filipino is in home quarantine.
Meantime, new testing and quarantine protocols are in place for international travelers from nations outside the red list. Fully vaccinated people are required to present negative RT-PCR test results conducted 72 hours before leaving the country of origin. They will undergo facility-based quarantine and another test on the 5th day after arrival in the country. Those unvaccinated or partially inoculated will be tested on the 7th day. All are required to quarantine at home until the 14th day, even if they test negative. Malacanang appealed for understanding amid the updated protocols.
Whatever changes or amendments adopted are prompted by a continuous assessment of prevailing conditions. When there are developments that merit the adoption of a more cautious approach to the entry of individuals from overseas, the IATF will recommend what is necessary to safeguard the health of our people.
International travelers who arrived before the updated protocols took effect will follow the rules in place when they entered the country. The World Health Organization believes the number of countries with a new variant is higher than currently reported. It now warns nations in the Western Pacific region to begin bracing for another possible surge in cases. Carolyn Bonkin tells us more.
Even with travel restrictions, World Health Organization officials say the entry of the Omicron variant in a country is inevitable.
That the border control can reduce the risk of importations and can buy time. But it's not possible to completely stop the virus unless you completely close the border. So what is very important is to prepare and be ready for this next surge.
Omicron will eventually come to most of the countries in the region. And so therefore, what we need to do is we need to start preparing now, and we need to do that in a sustainable way.
By prepare, WHO officials mean inoculating those who remain unvaccinated and giving booster shots to those frequently exposed to the virus and have weak immune system.
We know that the unvaccinated are now driving transmission, and they have the worst outcomes.
Hospitals must start reserving beds, with the government finding possible COVID cases and never letting one's guard down, as many countries are facing yet another surge despite high vaccine coverage.
And after suppressing the Delta-driven outbreaks earlier in the year, both Singapore and the Republic of Korea have started seeing an increase in cases again over the past few weeks. These may include increased mobility and social mixing following the easing of travel restrictions and public health measures.
For now, WHO officials say Omicron is more transmissible than the other variants. They don't know yet if it's causing more severe illness, but reinfection is possible, they say. So far, current tests, vaccines, and treatments are perceived to be effective against Omicron. But if this new variant enters the country this month, Octa Research Group projects COVID cases going up to 5,000 again daily by late January.
It's a relatively pessimistic scenario. In terms of the timeline, I would say that it would happen around late January to February, when it starts to increase, when the number of cases start to increase. But again, these are just preliminary information. We may recalibrate.
The Health Department is rechecking samples of all returning Filipinos from 2 weeks ago to know whether or not any one of them is a carrier of the dreaded Omicron variant. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
Overseas, more countries in Asia are reporting their first cases of the Omicron variant. Malaysia identified its first infection in a foreign student who arrived from South Africa on November 19th. That was before the nation reported the emergence of Omicron to the WHO. The student is fully vaccinated and asymptomatic. Singapore detected 2 imported cases who were preliminary positive for Omicron on Thursday. Both are fully vaccinated with mild symptoms. Officials say there is no evidence yet of community transmission. India also reported its first 2 Omicron infections. One was a South African national who has since returned to his home country, while the other case was a local doctor who had no travel history. South Korea, meanwhile, toughens measures to curb a surge in cases. Beginning Monday, gatherings are limited to 6 people in the Greater Seoul area and 8 for the rest of the country. Restaurants and cafes will only cater to vaccinated customers or require a negative test result. South Korea has 6 Omicron cases so far. Up ahead on Newsnight, we'll get updates on the Senate's latest hearing on the government's alleged anomalous deals with Pharmaly. And after Los Angeles, where is BTS headed to next? Details when we return. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Conquering the universe was the ultimate, but there's more. Dahil tinawag ho ako ng Panginoon for a major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako 4th runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
San Miguel Flavor Beer! Game! Ang magmahal sa kaaway, mas matamis ang buhay. Make life sweet with San Miguel Flavored Beer with the deliciously refreshing flavors of apple, lychee, and lemon with just the right beer buzz. Bili na sa suking tindahan.
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na Pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Happiness! Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
Beer call muna tayo. Beer call muna tayo. Kahit kailan, walang iwanan. Beer call muna tayo. Beer call muna tayo.
Relaxing hot springs, crystal clear lakes, and majestic waterfalls. Laguna has them all. And thanks to its accessibility to the Skyway and South Luzon Expressway, it's become a popular weekend destination. Agritourism in the province has also caught the eye of travelers, the most popular of which is cacao farming.
Isa sa pinagmamalaki ng Nagcarlan, Laguna ang kakao. Kasi unang-una, ang kakao dito sa Nagcarlan masarap. Ang mission ng Cacao Farmers Association of Nagcarlan is mapaunlad ang produksyon ng kakao dito sa buong bayan ng Nagcarlan. At makilala hindi lamang sa Nagcarlan o kung saan pa man makarating ang produkto namin.
Laguna is home to many skilled craftsmen. Who knew that pandan leaves and rattan in the hands of a skilled craftsman could turn into these?
Isa ito sa pinagmamalaking produkto ng Louisiana kasi po dito lang sa Louisiana matatagpuan ang maraming pandan. At siya ang pinagkunan ng kabuhayan ng mga taga rito sa Louisiana.
Yung mga taga-Mabita, katulad po namin, mga matsatsaga po kami sa handicrafts. Kasi ito yung simulan ng mga taga-Laguna na hanggang ngayon ay tinataguyod pa rin namin.
Simula pa noon, ang Victoria ay kilala na sa isa sa mga sources ng itlog ng itik.
We are so thankful na kami dito sa Laguna naabot ng magandang daan.
Laguna shows that its agricultural prowess and craftsmanship are worth the quick drive.
Science for Communities is actually a document that relates the stories of the different marginalized communities.
We also believe that coming up with the book is very timely and relevant, considering that we are all in the pandemic. The science, technology, and innovation can be an answer to their everyday problems and can uplift them from poverty.
Sa atong mga kababayan, makipartner o makilahok sa Department of Science and Technology at makatabang sa pagbag-o sa patuloy na pag-uswag sa atong bayan.
Ano ba talaga ang tunay na astig? That's Red Horse for you. Iba ang sipa.
In Red Horse, we use a blend of malted barley and cereals. The key to brewing an extra strong beer is to convert the carbohydrates into fermentable sugars. And in Red Horse, we use a carefully selected yeast strain, one that is very robust.
This full-flavored lager is multi-awarded. Over the years, Red Horse has garnered awards from Mont Selection and the Australian International Beer Awards. Red Horse clearly is on fire. From video conferencing to virtual happy hours with family and friends, you'll get a kick out of the freshness and boldness of Red Horse.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. New developments on investigations into the pandemic supply controversy. The Bureau of Internal Revenue is looking into dozens of taxpayers linked to the government's questionable deals. Let's get the lowdown from Amor Santos, who's monitoring the Senate's 16th hearing with the embattled supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceuticals. Amor, who are these taxpayers and what else has been unraveled today in the probe?
Well, Mai, like you said, just as the Senate resumed its investigation on the alleged anomalies involving controversial government supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceutical, the Bureau of Internal Revenue assured it is also doing its part. In a statement, the BIR says a tax audit is now being conducted against 76 taxpayers, including executives of Pharmaly Pharmaceutical. Citing the BIR probe, Pharmaly Director Lynn Con-ong appealed to the senators for mercy. He and fellow executive Mohit Dargani are detained at the Pasay City Jail for refusing to submit financial documents subpoenaed by the senators.
Napadala na talaga kami sa kulungan eh, ma'am. We are not criminals. Yung mga file na yan, I really don't know kung saan man sila. But since the chairman have a conclusion kanina, siguro filean nila na po na kami kaso kasi nagsasuffer po talaga kami sa kulungan. Hindi naman po kami kriminal.
Do not try to get awa. Wala kayong makukuhang awa. Before we can be awa, kailangan may katarungan muna.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon says nothing stopping the chamber, which has now conducted 16 hearings despite attacks from President Rodrigo Duterte, no less. In his opening statement, Gordon fired back at the chief executive and even criticized his Senate bid.
Isang huwad na nagpapanggap na isang bayani at binola nyo ang tao at ngayon napapatunayan na kayo ay talagang kapatid na magnanakaw, sinungaling kayo. How dare you again ask for the vote of the Filipino people when you failed them?
During the hearing, tax expert Mon Abrea again discussed Pharmaly's lack of supporting documents for purchases amounting to 3.4 billion pesos. Gordon says this may be ghost deliveries and the money may have been pocketed. Abrea says this is a possibility due to the lack of documentation. Back to you.
Amor, there are Supreme Court petitions against the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's inquiry as well as its arrest and detain orders against the personalities involved. Any update on this?
Well, Maya, despite those petitions, Pharmaly executives Mohit Dargani and Lynn Con-ong still attended the Senate hearing. They were escorted by Bureau of Jail personnel from the Pasay City Jail to the Senate. Now, Parmalee's alleged financier, Chinese businessman, and former Duterte advisor Michael Yang also joined virtually. According to tax expert Mon Abrea, Michael Yang's declared income of over 1.5 million pesos from 2016 to 2020 does not match his total investments worth 52 million pesos. We're still waiting for Yang to respond to this during the Senate hearing night.
Thank you. That was Amor Santos reporting. A document shows presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos did not pay the tax penalties or the penalties in his tax case, which is now at the center of petitions to disqualify him from the 2022 presidential race. The Quezon City Regional Trial Court Branch 105 issued a certification stating there has been no compliance of payment or satisfaction from the RTC decision in 1995 or the Court of Appeals in 1997. Attorney Ted Te, the lawyer representing some petitioners against Marcos, says they will bring the matter to the Commission on Elections and the Office of the Quezon City Prosecutor. Te says Marcos remains ineligible to run for public office because of the conviction. Meanwhile, officials of Marcos's Partido Federal ng Pilipinas are denying the party is in disarray. This is in response to Abubakar Mangelen, who introduced himself as party chairman and filed a petition at the COMELEC. Mangelen is seeking to cancel Marcos's nomination and acceptance certificate, or CONA, saying he was never a party member, and that the issuance of Marcos's CONA was unauthorized, unilateral, illegal, and improper. But a faction of the party led by Secretary General Thompson Lanchon said in a statement that Mangelen was kicked out as chairman in September.
So doon yung CONA ang kine-question niya. Ang CONA, it is an internal affair of the party. Hindi naman pwedeng kukunin mo yung pati-disqualify mo yung sa CONA. Sa partido yan eh.
Lanchon says they will respond to Mangelen's petition once they receive the official copy. A look now at what other presidential aspirants are up to. A sea of pink greeted Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate Senator Kiko Pangilinan during their stationary caravan in the province of Iloilo. Iloilo City Mayor Jerry Treñas remarked he never saw such energy, love, and volunteerism in his entire political career. Robredo and Pangilinan will be in Iloilo for 2 days. Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson and running mate Senate President Tito Soto said the Interior Department should issue guidelines defining a political rally. The DILG has called on aspirants and supporters to refrain from holding such events as it is not yet campaign season and because of the Omicron variant threat. And Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says he would retire if he loses the 2022 presidential elections. But if he wins, the 47-year-old told his supporters in Bulacan that he would quit politics after his term.
Halimbawa, pinalad ako sa tulong ninyo, sa awa ng Diyos, o at the age of 52, di tapos na yung term ng presidente, no? Pahinga na. Magbabayad na ako ng kakulangan ko sa pamilya ko, sa mga anak ko.
What if, let's say, hindi ka pala rin?
Ay, tapos na ang buhay. Move on. Kasi,
no more run? Kahit
ano na yun?
sa Maynila?
Ano na ako. Tapos na ako. I did my share. That's why I offered myself to the people.
Still ahead on Newsnight, the BTS concerts in Los Angeles wrapped up today, but there's more to look forward to with the K-pop sensation announcing its next stop. Details when we return.
Kabilang ba kayo
payo sa mga Pilipino na nahihirapan sa mga transaksyon dahil wala o kulang ang mga valid IDs.
Huwag nang mag-alala dahil narito na po ang PhilSys, ang identification system ng bawat Pilipino.
Meron lamang pong 3 steps para makapagrehistro at makakuha ng PhilID. Para sa Step 1 registration, pumunta lang sa register.philsys.gov.ph para makapag-register sa PhilSys online.
Sa pamamagitan ng ID natin, ang bawat Pilipino ay meron ng valid proof of identity.
At mas mapapadali na ang ating mga public and private transactions. Kaya ano pang hinihintay nyo?
Ayaan na sina nanay, tatay at ang buong pamilya. At mag-register na.
Ito ang PhilSys, ID natin to.
Gumagaan ang inuman pag sandiglay. Hoy, musta?
Ako, stressed sa work kaya ini-imagine kong nasa beach ako. Ako, busy sa paglaba at pagluto. Kaya ini-imagine ko, nag-iit-olokin tayo.
Ako, ini-imagine ko yung bar dati. Laging masaya.
Kasi miss ko na kayo.
Buti na lang, may San Miguel dito sa tindahan. Pagtapos ng mabigat na araw, mag-inuman with friends and San Miguel. 100 calories lang. Magaan sa tiyan. Ulitin natin to.
Ang alin? Mag-imagine?
Hindi, mag-inuman.
Napakahalaga ng savings kasi pag dumating ang pagkakataon na ikaw ay nasa kibit kalagayan, di ba, ma-hospital ka o magkasakit ka dito lang sa bahay, kailangan ng pera. Meron kang ipon, anytime pwede ka makapag-withdraw. Matatagpuan yung tindahan ko malapit dito sa Cebuana. Dito po ako naguhulog araw-araw. Kasi gusto ko nga po makaipon para sa aking mga anak, para sa sarili ko, sa darating na araw ng buhay ko. Kaya sinikap po talagang mag-ipon.
Ako po ay may sariling bike, may sidecar. Dadalhin ko po yun sa palengke, tapos doon po, may marami na po akong suki doon na ibinibigay nila yung karton nila sa akin. At yun po, yung mga binibenta ko. Hindi naman alam ng mga anak ko na may nakatabi akong pera. Yun po yung inunti-unti namin na ginamit pang araw-araw na pagkain namin nung talagang pandemic.
Stay in ako dito bilang isang sales clerk sa auto supply shop. Basta pag sasahod ako, dadaling ko doon sa Cebuana, iniipon ko yon. Mas maganda pag nandoon yung pera mo, hindi mo basta-basta magastos. Tapos, syempre, nakukontrol mo siya. Hindi tulad pag hawak-hawak mo lang. Sa hirap ng buhay, kailangan mong kumayod at kailangan mag-ipon.
Siyempre, kailangan mo pa rin tumayo. Kung paano mong pagkakasyahin, kung ano yung nandiyan. Pero hindi naman mahirap kasi meron ka nakatabi.
Tandaan ako, gusto ko makapag-ipon ng pera para sa darating na araw ng buhay ko at para sa aking mga anak. Talagang dapat magsikap. Magsikap. Hindi ka naman magsisisi kung makaipon ka eh.
This program is brought to you by
6 na taong serbisyong may tatak ng tapang at malasakit. Inuuna ang ating kaligtasan, seguridad, kapayapaan at kapakanan ng mga nangangailangan. Matatag, may paninindigan at tapat sa bayan. Ibinuhos ang lahat para sa Pilipino, para sa maliwanag na kinabukasan at tungo sa pag-angat ng bawat mamamayan. Ito ang Duterte Legacy.
Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Pandemya man, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran. Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
Bawat patak, may sarap, may lakas, sulit. Red Horse Beer. Ito ang tama!
Welcome back. BTS is giving fans a chance to see them live yet again This time returning to their home base, the K-pop group announced Seoul as the next stop for its Permission to Dance on-stage concerts set for March 2022. The announcement came after BTS wrapped up the last of its shows in Los Angeles today. The group ended the 4-day event with a surprise guest. Coldplay's Chris Martin joined BTS for a performance of their chart-topping song, My Universe. And before we go, an early Christmas treat for the ears. The Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra is serenading audiences for a live outdoor concert at the Manila Central Post Office. The show also features the Nightingales and young soprano Alexa Kaufman. The Christmas special is part of the Cultural Center of the Philippines' outreach program to bring the arts closer to the people. You can also watch the show online through the CPP office of the President's Facebook page. We have 22 days before Christmas. That's it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Maya Rodriguez for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Bongbong Marcos is the political flavor of the month. He's facing 4 petitions to stop him from running for president. Everyone likes to call him the son and namesake of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos. Even President Duterte has only harsh words for him, despite the fact that back in the 2016 elections, Mr. Duterte said he wanted Bongbong to win. But here's what's going for Marcos Jr. He's doing very well in pre-campaign surveys, and like it or not, as a former advertising executive and political strategist, Greg Garcia says,
it's a strong brand. Marcos is a strong brand.
So will he defy the odds and win in 2022? 36 years since his father was deposed. What sweet revenge and utter vindication for a family so vilified all these years. The complete rehabilitation in a referendum on EDSA 1986. The nightmare that yellow, now pink forces dread. To be sure, there have been father and child and mother and child tandems that have made it to the presidency. Diosdado Macapagal in 1961, daughter Gloria in 2001 and 2004, Cory Aquino in 1986, son Noy Noy in 2010. But one of these things is not quite like the others. Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Now, before we tackle the Bongbong Marcos story, let's talk about this development that broke just this morning and admittedly wasn't entirely unexpected. Longtime aide to the president, Senator Bongo, withdrawing from the race, but not without first dropping broad hints he wanted out.
Sumasagi sa isip mo yun, sir, to just withdraw?
I'm not saying na ganun po, pero nag-aantay lang po ako ng sign sa ating Panginoon.
Thank you.
Para bigyan po ako ng lakas. I'm hurting po, sa totoo lang. Nasasaktan po ako sa sitwasyon sa ngayon. So, yun po ang aking nararamdaman. Kung kailangan ko pong magsakripisyo para sa Pilipino, kailangan ko pong magsakripisyo kay Pangulong Duterte at sa pamilya. Gagawin ko po. Kasi wala naman po akong ambisyon na maging Pangulo. That is politics. Ganun po talaga ang politika. Who would expect na ako ang standard bearer bilang Vice President? Tapos ngayon, hindi na ako kasama sa karera.
But the President...
Yan po ang yan ang resulta ng politika. Diyan po ang dumi ng politika, diyan po ang init ng politika. Kaya sinabi, if you cannot stand the heat, then get out of the kitchen.
Sir, kailan kayo punta sa Comelec, sir, to withdraw?
Holiday ngayon eh. Ano na lang po yun, formality na lang po yung gano'n.
Well, Bongo also did say, and we quote, ayaw ko rin pong lalong maipit si Pangulong Duterte. Now, party officials who fielded Go for President say they are open to all options. Federalismo ng Dugong Dakilang Samahan, or PDDS founder Greco Belgica says the party will meet today and will also talk with the ruling PDP Laban. He says the group respects Go's decision, but it now needs direction. With Go out, who among the presidential aspirants will they support?
Well, right now, until we sit down with our leaders and our principal, the President and Senator Bongo, wala muna kami iniisip na gano'n. All options are open, and whatever's going to be best for the country and best for the party.
And without a clear lead, not only is the PDDS in a quandary, so is the president's own party or a faction of it, the PDP Laban. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, its president, can only say that the senator has good reasons behind his decision. Senator Ping Lacson now asking who will be the administration candidate. When asked if he's open to be endorsed, he had this to say.
Mahirap sagutin yung tanong mo. Sabi ko nga kami dalawa ni SP, determinado kami, no? Sabi nga namin, maski sino pang kaharap namin, tuloy-tuloy lang kami, no? An endorsement is an endorsement, no? No matter kung ano yung kine-carry ng endorsement, it's still an endorsement. Doon na lang muna tayo, but mahirap sagutin yung open or willing or will seek, but definitely we will not seek endorsement kasi masyadong presumptuous on our part.
Well, our guests for tonight, political analyst Antonio Contreras, Professor Ton Contreras, and Singapore-based sociologist Ash Presto. Good evening to you both, Professor Ton and Ash. You know, last week lang ang topic ko ay presidential anointments, and my guests, Ronnie Puna and Malu Tiquia, were talking about how important it is that, you know, the president, the one who is endorsing or anointing, is very popular, and at the same time, the one he's anointing is very capable and, siguradong, a sure win. And then this, no? So, nahihilo na ba kayo or matagal na kayo nahihilo? Let's begin with Professor Tonton because he has some very interesting insights.
Well, actually, hindi ako nahihilo kasi in-expect ko na to Pia. From the very start, I looked at Philippine politics now with a different lens. That it is almost like a simulacra or something that is staged. That it is both a reality game show and a soap opera and a political event. And because of this, I told myself I need to think outside the box. That someone is writing this for us, and the only difference is that there is no price of money. The price is Malacanang. So I think it's something that well, you can always argue that the withdrawal of Senator Bongo is a sacrifice, but. Because it's a sacrifice because he wanted to be vice president and then he was kicked upstairs because to give way to Sara Duterte. And yet he knows that he could not win the presidency. But he wanted to be the vice president. So it's a sacrifice. He was played. He was a pawn in the big game. But at the same time, the other side of that, you can also argue that he knows he's just playing his part. So I might be wrong, but that is how I look at the political game right now. And what triggers me to think that way, Pia, is I was told by someone that the way President Duterte plays politics is like a game of chess, that he anticipates the moves of people. So I think that's something that we need to reflect on.
So sacrifice and simulacra.
Are we being played?
Yeah. Simulacra, define that again, and it is a word that will mean what? Simulated what?
Yeah, well, it's based from postmodern theory, and I think Ash would know this. It's basically,
simulated reality.
When you lose distinction of reality and what is reality, what is imagined. And it's very much like true in reality game shows where, like the Kardashians, you don't know, is it real or are they just acting? So it is now, politics is now acquiring that flavor. Ito ba mga itong umaarte lang? O tunay talaga?
Baka naman we're already daydreaming, parang ganon.
Yes, so something
Ash Presto, is that right?
Yeah, or it's almost like you're in a theme park.
I would agree with
you don't know what
also.
this is something that is fantasy, yet it is real. You can see this. You can see the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, and yet they're fantasy. So it's like that politics is like that now.
Yeah, but
it's
you know,
almost like
but for how many generations of people all over the world, no, Mickey and Minnie are real, even if they're really not.
yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
right.
Yeah,
that's right.
no,
So Santa Claus is also simulacra. You know, it's
Yeah.
an imagined
Okay.
thing, but it's also you see it in the malls. And
Ash.
politics has become like that. You know, politics has become like that.
So Ash, itong pag-withdraw ni Bongo, let's talk about BBM later. Yung withdrawal of Bongo.
I would like to first add to what Pia has mentioned a while ago about capability and popularity. So I would also add charisma in the mix, because you need charisma to be elected for office. And we know that President Duterte has had a lot of that in 2016. And what is different from a charisma is that you have to make people believe that you're capable of doing things. Whether you're capable or not of doing these things doesn't matter. You just have to make people believe. So a lot of people believe that Duterte was, can end criminality in 3 to 6 months, and until now a lot of people still believe that. So that's charisma, and that also figures in the statement of Bongo today in his withdrawal of his candidacy. So he mentioned that he is not from known political families, and this is very interesting because we know that originally Bongo was gunning for vice presidency, but then the daughter Sara Duterte announced the candidacy, and we all know Sara Duterte is very charismatic. The last name is very charismatic. The woman is also very charismatic by herself. And afterwards, they were pushed almost at very fast pace to announce the presidential candidacy for Bongo. And we all know he is facing another very charismatic leader, which is Bongbong Marcos. So again, charisma plays a very big role in this. You don't have to be capable, you just have to make people believe that you can do things.
Yeah, Ash, we're gonna talk about BBM in just a bit, no? But we can concentrate first on Bongo. But I wanted to ask the both of you, and syempre, para bang, I'm sure lahat tayo ganun ang iniisip. Akala ba natin si Bongo, ang gusto talaga na, akala ko ba, ang gusto ni Digong na ang tumakbo ay si Bongo? And yung sagot ba doon sa tanong na yan ay simulacra? Professor Ton?
Well, like I said, I'm going to stick to my analysis. It's basically it's planned because as early as January and February, I'm already hearing all these stories coming from the south, from some reliable sources that I have, that in the end it's going to be a BBM Sara tandem.
Right.
So and it's now a BBM Sara tandem. Then someone told me that basically that's how President Duterte plays politics, like a game, like playing with pawns where you anticipate the moves of your opponent.
Right. Okay.
So it's basically something that probably it's just yung nasobrahan siya sa pag-iiyak sa TV, di ba?
Okay.
Si Bongo. So parang it's too good to be true. Parang sobra naman yata yung
drama,
di ba? Parang ganun.
Yeah, well, chess or, there's another board game made by a Filipino, Game of the Generals, where you can't see each
I used to
other.
play that in
But
high
anyway,
school.
pero hindi general ang ang mga game of politicians. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned, please. Welcome back. This is Politics as usual. Very quickly now because we don't have much time. We're still talking about Bongo. So of course, ngayon ang tanong ng tao is sino ngayon ang kandidato ni Tatay Digong? Is it, as Professor Ton is saying, it's going to all figure under the simulacra, and then, low-ranking sa survey naman si Bongo, but at the same time, ilang boto din yan, no? At kanino yan mapupunta? So very quickly, I wanted Ash to answer that question. Ash Presto.
I think the administration has to be very adaptive enough, not only to anticipate the moves of the opposition, but also very adaptive to change tires and then be prepared to endorse another candidate. And they have been very adaptive since the start. So you've seen the very confusing mix of presidential boys, vice presidential boys, now running for the Senate, vice presidential boys to presidential boys, and now withdrawing from elections. So as Prof. Contreras has mentioned a while ago, it's a game, and the administration is making sure that they win the game. At the end of the day, elections is all about winning. Elections is all about ensuring that you forge enough connections. And in the next couple of days, we will be able to see how the administration can change its gears, be adaptive enough, anticipate the moves of the opposition by endorsing a certain candidate.
All right. We're going to shift now to BBM and a little. Well, there's the first question will still be about Bongo, no? Because the question is how will this withdrawal of Bongo benefit Bongbong Marcos? But before that, political strategist Greg Garcia said, and I quote, "BBM has a lot to thank the opposition for. What doesn't kill him makes him stronger." So, itong withdrawal ni Bongo, is it going to benefit Bongbong Marcos, Professor Ton?
Oh yeah, because many of the supporters of Bongo are natural Marcos supporters. Basically, because remember, the diehard Duterte supporters, the DDS, and the loyalists would be one cohort that supported the Duterte administration. And so they are, even if they quarreled recently because of the Go Marcos rivalry initially, they're natural allies. And the question is, who will be endorsed by the president? Endorsement could come in two ways. It could be overt and covert. Now, openly, someone can endorse one candidate, but under the table, it could be another candidate. And sometimes in this world where you have images, sometimes even if you attack a candidate, for example, that might also be an endorsement because the attack might appear
the way
to be
President
so
Duterte
contrived.
has been attacking Bongbong Marcos.
Yes, I would even say, Pia, that, for example, these recent attacks, yung unang akusasyon niya na Marcos is a communist, which is not true, is and no one believes that. It's already like a staging of a lie. Because if you told a lie, then no one will believe you the second time around. And that's what happened when he said, he alluded to a drug addict for a presidential candidate. And many people suspected it to be you-know-who. And so now it's almost like
and then calling him also weak leader, spoiled child. No?
Yeah, inoculating or vaccinating Marcos.
Okay.
More like, binabakunahan na para hindi natabla ng mga susunod pang atake.
Oo. Itong mga attacks, so-called attacks on Marcos Jr., as he has been referred to, these are para bang, yung matatawag natin parang things going against, okay, quote-unquote, going against Bongbong. At the same time, people, preferring to call him son and namesake of a dictator. Para bang pilit na kinakabit yung salitang diktador dun sa pangalan Bongbong Marcos. And then yung 4 na petitions that are filed against him to disqualify him at the COMELEC. What do you think of all of these, Ash Presto? Are these, like Greg Garcia was saying, are these just going to make him even stronger because it's not going to kill him? Ganun ba yun?
I think so, Pia. But also I want to put a hazard on just plainly saying that Duterte has been criticizing Marcos, because Duterte, unlike any of his tirades against other presidential votes, has not directly named Bongbong Marcos in all of his rants against this blind item person who comes from a very political family, who is a very weak leader and who does cocaine. So he hasn't named exactly who that person is, although the allegations are very pointed. And although we know exactly who is pointing towards, he hasn't named him. So it's a very weird endorsement from the president. So if we have the kind of president we have in the Philippines, we know that as long as he doesn't directly directly go against someone, then you know that there is a very huge possibility for them to still team up. And we also know that the supporters of Duterte and Bongbong Marcos have one thing also in common, which is a nostalgia for an authoritarian rule. And Duterte supporting Bongo, who is not as charismatic as Bongbong Marcos, who doesn't produce as much nostalgia for an authoritarian rule as the last name Marcos, then you know that at the end of the day, Bongo backing out, the opening up of endorsement from Duterte will at the end of the day benefit Bongbong Marcos.
Yeah, maybe that nostalgia for a return to a strongman rule is part of the so-called democracy fatigue. And these are one of the 4 things going for Bongbong Marcos. And this is what I wanted to ask you about also in the comments. So, democracy fatigue. Medyo pagod na ang tao na parang nag-EDSA na tayo dati, di ba? Number 2, very motivated yung pamilya. because they can go for vindication here. And if they are vindicated, then, all they have to say, ano na EDSA nyo, di ba, noong 1986. And then sabi nga ni Greg Garcia, brand name. The Marcos is a brand name, no? And then doing well in pre-campaign surveys. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Almost. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. We're on our final stretch. Professor Ton Contreras and Ash Presto, who's based in Singapore. Kanina, I was enumerating all these things going for BBM. What do you think of that? And at the same time, is he really the strongest candidate at this time, or are things still going to happen in this saga? Professor Ton.
I think he's the strongest. Surveys indicate. And I think the reason why Marcos resonates with people is that he has a very powerful narrative. I call it, he's a brand, but I call it the Count of Monte Cristo, the Crisostomo Ibarra narrative, an elite person whose family was persecuted, and then he's coming back with a vengeance. So and even that is a very powerful narrative, as powerful as a poor person climbing up the political ladder. So I think that
the family is persecuted
for him.
The family is persecuted now.
Yeah, the family is persecuted, and people even perceive that he was cheated out of a victory in 2016. So it's also vengeance, it's redemption, and people love that in movies.
Okay,
that's a very good sellable narrative to the masses.
Okay, Ash Presto.
I would agree to what Pia mentioned, what you mentioned a while ago about democracy fatigue, but I would also put caveat on that, because for you to have a democracy fatigue, then you should have experienced democracy in the first place. What we have been experiencing is democracy in its electoral form, but democracy in its deliberative, in its contested form is yet to be seen. So maybe we can also say that a lot of people are still disillusioned by democracy, and these can be traced from the broken promise of the EDSA revolution. For almost 4 decades after the EDSA revolution, you just have to ask one question: what happened? And you can answer that. So the support for Bongbong Marcos still remains.
This whole question about EDSA, because you have 36 years now. Of the 36 years, 28, 29 years, you had the presidents who were in power who were well allied with EDSA or against the Marcoses to a certain extent. So that's why people are saying we had expected real change, but hindi nangyari. Kaya ganun ang, and that will explain why people want BBM now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No change. Yeah. There's no change.
Okay. Kanina nabanggit mo, Professor Ton, 2016. I remember Lenny was saying that she'd run if Bongbong would run so that she could stop him. But she squeaked past him by like 200,000 votes in 2016 in the VP race. But what's it going to be like now? Because the surveys don't put Lenny, very high up there. So paano na?
So you really have to ask, if indeed Lenny won in 2016, you have to ask, why are the numbers like that? Maybe things happened. Maybe I would explain that first of all, Lenny was really savage by bad PR by coming from the diehard Duterte supporters. And second, it is the perception also about, is it really true now? Nasasabi tuloy mga tao, minsan, pag ganyan ang number, ito nga pa talagang dinaya siguro si Bongbong. Nakakadagdag yan dun ngayon sa vengeance, redemption narrative. That abay, dito na tayo kasi ito ay dinaya. Kasi nakikita ngayong numbers.
Pero, ngayon, tama bang sabihin? Kasi, some people are saying, the opposition, I mean, the Lenny, you can't say the Dilawan, the Kakampinks, are saying, if you don't vote for Lenny, then Bongbong will win. So it's going to be your fault. Tama ba yun, Ash?
That is the assumption that democracy is just all about elections. So a lot of activities can still be considered as democratic. And of course, Prof. Ton will agree with that even revolutions, rallies, and et cetera, will be considered as under the realm of democracy. So only people can tell if that is the way that is a logical result of people not voting for Leni Robredo. But also I would like to add that a lot of the allegations against Leni Robredo is very woman biased. So a lot of biases against her come from the fact that she is a widow, that she's a woman, and she's been branded as just a housewife by a lot of politicians right now. And this plays into a lot of the sexism culture in the Philippines, which also still fuels the candidacy of Duterte for senator and then Bongbong Marcos as president.
We have to end right now.
Yeah,
we have to end right now because it is 8:55. But I just want to say that Ash's background, although she's Singapore-based, is the Ilocos Sur, the famous Ilocos Sur. See, because you're from there, and you did say earlier before the show that there is that solid vote for Marcos kahit papaano. But anyway, we've run out of time, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. Political analyst Professor Ton Contreras and Singapore-based sociologist Ash Presto. Maraming salamat. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on the show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.